How do we take the idea of moving beyond a fixed pie mentality and put it into practice in our negotiations? You won't be surprised to hear that this process begins when you're preparing for negotiations. In a previous video, we talked about the importance of employing an expansive mindset in your preparations, and this is one of the key areas where that mindset pays dividends. Some simple negotiations will have few variables beyond price, but even seemingly one-dimensional negotiations can benefit from the addition of variables that can both increase negotiating power and create value. Some examples of the additional issues we can introduce to seemingly fixed pie negotiations are delivery timing, closing dates, payment terms and financing, quality assurances and warranties, contract length, post-sale service terms, exclusivity clauses, and future business. Introducing additional variables allows you to trade across issues. This is called log rolling, and doing so effectively requires that you not only know how you prioritize the issues, but also how your counterparty prioritizes them. Some of the latter information may be discoverable through research, but more often it will require that you ask the right questions and listen carefully to the responses. You might begin your preparations by considering all the things that your side might value that the other side might be able to provide. As an example, let's take a negotiation where your company is bidding competitively for a supply contract with a major customer. In addition to increasing revenue and making profits, your company might also place a high value on things such as gaining market position, blocking competitors, realizing job security for existing employees, funding R&D by taking on a piece of work, etc. The next step in your preparations would be to try to identify the things your counterparty might value that your side might be able to accommodate. Perhaps, in discussing the deal, the customer may indicate that they'd like to finance some of the purchase price rather than pay the full purchase price up front, and your company is able to introduce a leasing company to support the request, or can charge a premium for offering internal finance because the timing of the payment is less important to you than winning the deal. As you go through this process of analyzing competing interests and relative advantages, keep in mind the importance of focusing on differences in interests between you and your counterpart. These differences are opportunities. Negotiating across interests only works because parties have different interests and priorities. So while it's typically not very useful to ask, what are the things that are highly valuable to both sides? It is often helpful to ask, what things that the other side values very highly don't matter to my side nearly as much? Once you've identified the scope of the issues you think might be involved in the negotiation, how should you go about introducing and addressing them at the negotiating table? Should you negotiate each issue one by one, or multiple issues simultaneously? Expert negotiators recognize that it's best to negotiate multiple issues simultaneously, as doing otherwise minimizes the possibility of log rolling, i.e., negotiating across issues. For example, in the negotiation for your company on the supply contract, if your side has already agreed on the sale price and are only now discussing the delivery schedule, your side will have lost the ability to use its flexibility on price to leverage its position on delivery schedule. Negotiating multiple issues simultaneously also reveals valuable information regarding the relative importance of each issue to the parties. So it should be your goal to have at least some discussion on each issue before you finalize any of them. And when you're ready to start exchanging offers, a simple and effective way to put the multiple issues and relative priorities in play is by using package offers. Thus, in our supply contract example, if your company valued market position and using the deal to drive R&D for future business opportunities more than obtaining the highest price or a longer delivery schedule, you might propose to the buyer something like this. If the customer is willing to allow your company to retain all the intellectual property rights and will provide testimonials for use in marketing campaigns, your company is willing to agree to their price and will accelerate the production schedule by deprioritizing an existing order. But if the customer is not willing to accommodate your requests on intellectual property rights and testimonials, the price might be competitive but not as aggressively discounted, and the production lead time will be based on queue position. Adding variables and exploiting differing interests and priorities not only potentially creates value, It's a potent source of increased negotiating power.